My relationship with the show Miraculous Ladybug is incredibly complicated. I started watching the show after season 3 was released, so I am pretty late to the party. But since then, I think I've become more involved with the Miraculous Ladybug fandom than any other fandom I've ever been a part of. And because of that, you would think I'm so invested in the show because it's so good, right? Miraculous is, at this point, objectively trash. Don't get me wrong, I do love it, but I also hate it. Like I said, it's complicated. But after taking a deep dive into the creators of Miraculous Ladybug, I think I understand why the show took a turn for the worse, or rather, why it was doomed from the beginning. Even an ignorant pleb like me, who I'd say has pretty low standards for what an enjoyable show would be, can tell that Miraculous Ladybug doesn't feel thoughtfully put together. Like, for example, some of my favorite animated shows are Attack on Titan, Gravity Falls, and Avatar: The Last Airbender, which are top tier shows, so it's not exactly a fair comparison, but when you are watching these shows, you can like literally feel the thought put into them, and I quite frankly feel stupid watching these shows because the creators have done such a good job fleshing everything out. On the other hand, when I'm watching Miraculous Ladybug, I feel like the smart one, which says a lot. I've known for a while that some of the top people working on Miraculous Ladybug have done some sketchy things, but what pushed me to make this video was the recent controversy regarding the unjust wages of the English voice actors from Miraculous Ladybug, which leads me to my first topic of conversation, Jeremy Zag. Jeremy is the CEO of the company that produces Miraculous Ladybug and is also the director of the upcoming Miraculous Ladybug Awakening movie. I should clarify now that I'm not issuing a personal attack on any of the people mentioned in this video, and that by no means should you send hate towards them, okay? As we will see later, certain creators are not open to receiving criticism, whether they be constructive or not. From what I understand, Jeremy Zag is notorious for posting Miraculous related spoilers on his social media, but that's like the extent to the controversies that he's gotten himself into. However, on March 27th, a number of voice actors, including Joe Oshman, who voices Mary Bourgeois, Reba Burr, who voices Julika and Rose, and Ann Yatko, who voices Sabine, spoke up about their decisions to leave Miraculous Ladybug due to Zag denying their requests for a raise.
We asked for a modest raise in our pay.
A very reasonable raise. And they refused, and
I will not be returning in the future to play Sabine Chang.
I am most likely going to be replaced.
they are replacing me. And the reason is money.
It came down to a contract thing. The show is so successful. It's the most amazingly successful show I've ever worked on. But it pays me the least of any show I've ever worked on.
Miraculous is one of the most successful, well-known shows I have ever been on, and it is also the show that has paid me the least.
I disagreed with how production was handling rate negotiations, and I honestly really felt that like the actors, especially the ones who had been on the show for like 4 seasons, deserved rates that were commensurate to shows that are like it.
It also seemed like there was a pretty big disparity regarding the wages of the main cast versus the wages of the supporting cast, which did not help the situation.
Production has gone out of their way to divide the cast by giving other people different rates and then making them sign NDAs to promise they won't talk to us about how much they make, which is not normal.
At the end of the day, it's no secret that Miraculous has been rolling in that sweet, sweet dough, and it's more than understandable that the actors were upset with their lack of compensation due to the success of the franchise. In terms of Jeremy's involvement, it is his company, but since it is a large company, he seems to be unaware of these happenings regarding the voice actor compensation situation. I've never been a CEO, so I don't really know how it works, but this seems to be like a little bit of an oversight. I don't know. Nevertheless, our boy Jeremy came in clutch and addressed the situation on Twitter by saying he will fix the problem, and we learned later that he made it possible for everybody in the supporting cast to get a raise. Jeremy, yes! It is not often that I'm proud to say that I am a part of the Miraculous Ladybug fandom. Oh, well, I mean, that's a bit harsh, but good job, y'all. I'm proud. The fans helped bring the situation to Jeremy's attention. Hopefully there aren't similar situations going on in other sectors. I've seen the alleged budget for the Awakening movie, Jeremy. Please make sure the cast and crew is provided for before you pour all the profits into this passion project. But anyway, the reason that I was inspired to make this video is because when I first heard the news about this wage situation, I felt disappointed. And something about this disappointment felt familiar. Felt like something that I knew all too do well. And that is because the Miraculous Ladybug higher-ups have been disappointing me for quite some time. In this video, I will mostly be addressing Thomas Astruck's quite frankly embarrassing and immature behavior on Twitter, but also the more disturbing actions of the cast and crew outside of the show itself. According to Famous Birthdays, Thomas Astruck is 47 years old and is from France, so I will cut him a bit of slack considering there may be a language barrier and the fact that he's basically a boomer. A big reason why people dislike Thomas is because of the way he presents himself on Twitter. Now, in my opinion, this man has made many mistakes on Twitter, but arguably the biggest one is the fact that he went to Twitter in the first place to seek solace for his masterpiece that he thinks is Miraculous Ladybug. Which one of you cheeky bastards told this man that Twitter was the place to go for positivity and praise? My guy was expecting good vibes only. Little did he know that Twitter is the raging dumpster fire of the internet. In a series of tweets, Thomas laid out exactly how he expected his Twitter interactions to go. My dear Miraculars, I'm not a fan of social networks. I think they're digital tools which can be dangerous for the human mind. The only reason I'm here and consent to expose myself publicly is to interact in a positive and peaceful way with you. Therefore, please remember that those who attempt to create controversy or negative interactions of any kind will be blocked. Whatever the reason is, please don't spam me. Don't try to force your political or religious views on me. Remember that sentence. Don't share offensive content with me. He then continues by saying, I'm a human being like anyone else, except nearly 300,000 people follow me. Imagine you walk in the streets followed by this huge crowd. At any instant, people you don't know come out of nowhere, yell at you, insult you, or try to convince you of whatever. Luckily, most of you only want to share good moments and love. Subpar analogy aside, I will say that it is more than acceptable for Thomas to feel angry at the hate he receives, and on the flip side, it is completely unacceptable to say hateful things to people on the internet. However, what bothers me is that Thomas doesn't define negativity and the haters as only the vile comments that string together profanities and throw them at his general direction. He will also sometimes block anybody who doesn't agree with him or adamantly praise the show. Perhaps one of the reasons he lashes out so dramatically at people who disagrees or even has questions regarding the logistics of the show is because he has one of the biggest egos I have ever seen. He truly believes that Miraculous Ladybug is the pinnacle of children's animated television. And on the one hand, I do understand that a creator of a show should be proud of their creation, think it's the best thing that they could have produced. But Thomas says this in a way that's both unironically hilarious and quite frankly extremely embarrassing and rude. When Mark Miller, one of the most well-known comic writers involved with Marvel and DC, tweeted, one of my pals said last night that all unique comic book superpowers had been created by 1963. This can't be right, surely, especially on the manga scene. Wolverine, I guess, but even Healing and Metal Skeleton goes back to the Golden Age heroes. Any thoughts? Thomas replied, Mark, may I suggest you take a look at my show? In 3 seasons of Miraculous, we invented more unique superpowers than the whole industry in 3 decades. Yeah, I mean, he's got a point. When have we ever seen the superpowers of creation or destruction or paralyzation or time travel or illusion? I guess it's no surprise that he thinks he's better than fucking Pixar. That's right, folks. When someone pointed out the similarities between a character from the movie Incredibles 2 and Principal Damocles is the Owl, which by the way isn't an original concept, it's from Batman, Thomas replied, please, we have better designers than that.
Get absolutely wrecked, Pixar.
Someone else replied, and you have the best plot and powers, to which Thomas said, I think so. He then said, you can be mad at me as much as you want for saying that, but Zag's art director Nathaniel Braun is truly the best character designer I've ever seen, and nothing can change my mind. Pure genius. Okay, so it's one thing to hype up your bud, but it's another thing to bash another creator's work in the process. A popular YouTuber animator Ginger Ninja actually spoke up about her experience getting blocked by Thomas after replying to this very tweet.
I wanted to say something, but I didn't want to look like I was just trying to shit on him, so I threw in, and I quote, is there not a way for you to express your appreciation for your team without seeming like you're putting down other creators? We'd all perform better if we build each other up instead. I'd be pretty discouraged if I was the designer on Incredibles 2 and I read this. And he just immediately hit me with the hard block. And it was jarring. I really wasn't trying to be rude. I genuinely just wanted to open up a dialogue.
So you may be thinking, okay, Amanda, so he thinks his dick is big because he created a show that rivals even the best that Marvel and Pixar has to offer. He even inserted himself into the actual Miraculous Ladybug show where the entire plot centers around him not getting enough attention and praise for his work.
This is a private event, sir.
Huh? Excuse me, I'm Thomas Astruck, the movie director. Oh, nobody could care less about me.
The behind-the-scenes creator who never gets any of the credit.
But all of that is somewhat understandable, I guess. What's wrong with trying to create a community that commemorates his so-called masterpiece when he's only putting out positivity and praise? Oh, honey, but he's not. Thomas's whole thing on Twitter is that he wants you to be nice to him or else he'll hit you with the hard block. But he fails to acknowledge that he doesn't treat a lot of good-intentioned people with the same respect that he thinks he deserves. I mean, we've already seen how he'll block people who politely call him out, such as Jinja Ninja, and is willing to bash creators that aren't a part of Miraculous. But don't you worry, we got a lot more where that came from. Here are a bunch of tweets that show the warm and welcoming presence that Thomas brings to Twitter. Someone asked, with a huge part of the Miraculous community being an older audience, is there any chance next season may be slightly darker? Yeah, use your remote control and find the brightness menu. Hope it helps. I wanted to know why Hawkmoth didn't run away with all the Miraculouses he had in the season 3 finale. He could find a way to get Ladybug and Cat Noir's Miraculouses. Couldn't he use the ones he now has to get theirs? What for? Using the Miraculouses himself? He can't. Make a plan? He already has one. Recruit soldiers? He already has them. Plus a hostage. Give time for Ladybug and Cat Noir to come up with a plan instead of taking advantage of the confusion? Nonsense. He really thinks he's doing something. I mean, all of these people are asking valid questions, and he gives these snarky remarks as if they aren't the very things that set him on these blocking sprees. Speaking of blocking sprees, news from the spring cleaning. So far, I blocked nearly 500 haters. Weird fact, 90% of them have a She-Ra avatar. Not exaggerating. This is absolutely not meant to antagonize She-Ra lovers. Well then, what was the point of including that fact, Thomas? What I don't understand is the uncalled for hostility that Thomas has towards people who are genuinely confused about the logistics of the show. For example, when people were asking him about the logistics of Sentimonsters when the Felix Adrian Sentimonster theory was all the rage, Thomas was getting fed up with the questions and tweeted, "It's crazy. Whatever I say, you'll always twist my words to fit your theories, whatever they are. You're helpless." Thomas, why on earth would you be mad at fans for creating theories and asking questions about your show? But fan theories aren't the only things that Thomas dislikes. Oh no. He also bashes the fan fiction writers of the community as well, pointing out that none of them would be validated by a broadcaster or fit feasibility standards. He then goes on to make this analogy that there's a huge difference between cooking at home and running a restaurant, and as much as I love cooking, I'd never dare open a restaurant. I get that he was hurt that people were saying that fan fiction writers did a better job at writing the show than he did, but I've never seen a creator of a show tell fan fiction writers within his own community that their writing wouldn't be good enough for the industry. You can't be mad at negativity on Twitter when you're also directly contributing to the problem by antagonizing people who may or may not want to get a rise out of you. But yet he would never antagonize anyone or insult back, which brings me to my favorite segment, Tom's silly little inconsistencies. Thomas, if I may ask, was/is Felix's superhero persona different from Adrian's besides the costume? Even though he wasn't fit to be our hero, Felix is still an interesting character. Excuse me, but why was the Miraculous Ladybug anime delayed? Adrian was created because Felix wasn't an interesting character. The series is indeed full of details that seem insignificant at first glance, but are really meaningful when watched a second time. A lot of fans overthink little insignificant details, and at the same time, miss what's under their nose. Comedy, romance, action for 5+ audience. That's all. Hi Thomas, I have an idea. What if Shadowmoth creates an army of Sentimonsters? And how would he proceed since the holder of the peacock can only create one Sentimonster at a time? What if Catalyst strengthens his ability? Unlock this ability to create an army? Already tried with Catalyst, already failed. Why repeat something that didn't work?
What? Mr. Pigeon has already been akumatized 71 times?
I think you should make an akumatized Ladybug, but then Cat Noir saves her. There's a lot of people who have the same idea, but if you think a bit about the potential story, you'll see it can't work. What are you talking about? You did Cat Blanc and you can time travel. Yep, but then it'd be doing the same thing over and over again. Not fun. Miraculous Formula Rule 27. Marinette makes a mistake in every episode, but she makes up for it. So to reiterate, Thomas tried to argue that Miraculous Ladybug isn't repetitive? As if 4 seasons of the show haven't used the exact same formula in every single episode and have only given us the tiniest amount of development. Is there any likelihood that Luca can be a secret villain? Absolutely. Good guess. Sir? I don't even understand what people are asking. What is this thing with the secret villain? This one's my favorite. Hey, what topping do you want on your pizza? Pepperoni. Thank you so much, bro. Oh, this pizza's gonna be so good. Wait. What the hell is pizza? Remember when Thomas said don't try to force your political or religious views on him? Well, for those who are not familiar with this word, Antifa means anti-fascist, and MAGA means Nazi. The American election system is broken. Trump was elected with fewer votes than his opponent. Jesus was a Ladybug Miraculous holder, not the Ladybug one. But yeah, so clearly he's not afraid to show his own political or religious views on Twitter, but God forbid you tell him yours. Even though he's willing to make the claim itself that Jesus was in fact a miraculous holder, he maintains the strict belief that religion should be kept private. There have been people questioning Thomas's lack of religious representation in Miraculous, which according to him is a broadcasting issue because they forbid religious signs and beliefs in kid shows in order to prevent proselytism. Which, fair enough, I believe that. But thankfully he inserts his own opinion in case you were wondering, and says that he 100% agrees with that decision because religion is a private matter. I'm perfectly fine with doing a show containing no reference to any religion. Call it censorship if you want. I call this keeping children safe from any sensitive matter. I mean, religion is kind of a messy topic, but kids are introduced to it at a young age regardless. And are you really one to talk about keeping kids safe from sensitive matters? You don't have a problem with trying to incorporate lessons regarding racism, poorly if I may add. There has been a lot of controversy in particular surrounding the episode titled Kung Food, in which Marinette's uncle, who is of Chinese descent, gets akumatized into Kung Food, whose design unironically seemed to have a more Japanese influence and ended up backing up Chloe's racist remark about sushi when one of the weapons the akumatized villain used was in fact a sushi-themed tonfa.
Doesn't he know how to make sushi like everyone else?
Japanese people make sushi, Chloe. Chang Sifu is Chinese.
And thus went against the whole idea that Asian people aren't the same that the show was trying to promote. I don't think Thomas or the crew had any negative intentions when making this episode, and I think a simple apology would have sufficed. But of course, that is not what we received. Ah, Tumblr, so many beautiful fan arts, passionate fanfics, and fun theories, and so much misinformation. Did I mention we hired a Chinese actor to be sure that French actors were coached, accent was real, and everything accurately pronounced? Thank you, Thomas, for once again absolutely missing the point of critique. Also, I'm not really sure how voice casting works, but wouldn't it have been better to hire a Chinese actor instead of a Chinese actor coach? Another race-related topic of controversy is the Ghetto Blaster comic, which from the name you could probably guess where this is headed. In an official Miraculous Ladybug comic, Marinette gets her clothes stolen by Chloe, has to transform to defeat an Akuma, and then when she de-transforms, she ends up naked in a dumpster. Yup, that's just the plot twist your audience is craving. Child nudity. She then runs into a group of black people who have names such as Public Enemy, Killabee, and Ghetto Blaster, and Marinette immediately assumes that they are looting the place and asks them not to kill her. In reality, they are actually helping this hospital evacuate patients in light of the Akuma attack. Now, it is clear that the message of this comic is to not stereotype people and whatnot, and again, I don't think Thomas or the crew had any negative intentions. However, the way he addressed the situation, surprise, surprise, wasn't great. Someone sent Thomas a screenshot of one of the panels from the comic asking if it was real because it depicted harmful racist stereotypes. To which Thomas replied, "Have you fully read these comics? I don't have the comic yet, but I'm not sure how context would make these panels better. Then please read it fully before going all social justice warrior with me. Thanks." No, Thomas, thank you for that mature and dignified response. What a nice way to de-escalate the situation and resolve any misunderstandings. There are certain topics that really gets Tom going. One of which is whenever people ask why Cat Noir isn't portrayed as a vital member of the Ladybug Cat Noir duo, which is a valid argument because Cat Noir is constantly sacrificing himself in the heat of the battle and is portrayed as more of a comedic sidekick rather than the yin to Ladybug's yang, or vice versa. I'm not sure who's supposed to be the yin. I can't believe so many people have a problem with a girl being the leader of a duo. Ladybug isn't the boss, the chief, the captain, or the superior of Cat Noir. They're equal, but she leads because of her abilities. Is it so difficult to let girls lead? Someone replies, "Thomas, you've got the whole idea of feminism wrong. It's women are equal to men, not women are superior to men. It's not that hard. Is there a problem with a girl being the leader of a duo? No, but you often downplay Cat Noir and dumbify him to make Ladybug look smarter. I don't have to make her look smarter. She's smarter than everybody else. Thomas. I never understand Thomas's arguments. Sure, Ladybug is smart and nobody is against her being the leader, but your show presents Ladybug and Cat Noir as the yin and yang dynamic duo. Cat Noir shouldn't be portrayed as the weaker link in order to make Ladybug seem smarter and better. I'd argue that even goes against the whole women empowerment thing that you're trying to do. But here's what I don't get. Why would Cat Noir be inferior to Ladybug when you think that Adrian is perfection personified? Marinette has poor control of her emotions. Adrian is perfect, but his flaw comes from the fact that he's not accustomed to the outside world. His innocence makes him vulnerable. To sum it up, he's not flawed. The world is. Someone replied, okay, Adrian literally threatened to give up his ring while the city flooded, was so jealous that he lies about being in a relationship with Ladybug, thinks he's entitled to Ladybug's time when she had other plans, and blames Ladybug for all this. To which Thomas replied, as Cat Noir indeed. Hold up. You're telling me I watched the show 3 times over and didn't get the fact that Adrian and Cat Noir aren't the same person? God, I'm such an idiot. Someone said, surely they're the same person. Does that excuse Gabriel for everything he's done because he was Hawkmoth at the time? Invalid analogy, because Gabriel is almost as despicable in his civil form as he is as Hawkmoth. But Adrian makes mistakes when he's Cat Noir indefinitely. I don't know where to begin. Cat Noir is Adrian. Hawkmoth is Gabriel. Adrian is as bad as the worst thing that Cat Noir has done, and the same thing goes for Gabriel and any of the other superheroes. But apparently the worst thing that Adrian can possibly be as perfect, whereas Marinette has to make a mistake in every episode, and her main personality trait is having a crush on Adrian. Oh, wait, I'm not sure if that counts as a personality trait. Let's check with Thomas just to be sure. Marinette having an obsessive crush isn't a personality trait. It is. Oh, okay, that settles it then. I'd say that even after all of this, Thomas paints himself in the worst light when talking about Chloe. Thomas's views on Chloe are pretty disturbing and trigger warning. I will be mentioning sexual and emotional abuse in this segment. Not in detail, but, you know, just mentioning it. I'll start by illustrating how Thomas views Chloe via his own explanations. The show shows that everybody can come back from a bad experience and learn from their mistakes. It is shown literally in every episode. That's what the acclimatization symbolizes. We also show many characters from hard backgrounds, but they remain good and shiny people. Adrian lost his mother, Rose was sick. The purpose of Chloe is to show that some people don't want to change, especially if it endangers their privileges. He then goes on to say, her father loves her. She received help from the butler, Adrian, Miss Bustier, even Marinette and Ladybug. She rejected everybody. It's her choice, not something that fell on her. Then someone makes a point by saying, so if Chloe's mom thought her to be a monster, it wouldn't be easy for her to change, especially when there was no one to teach her how to change. Chloe's mom left at a young age, so you can't blame Chloe to be a monster. Chloe isn't an abused child. She hasn't been traumatized in any way.
Chlorine? Chloe?
Why don't you love me, Mom?
Like many kids in the world and many characters in the show, one of her parents left. That's all. Do other characters behave like her because of this? No. To recap, Thomas is saying that Chloe growing up without a mom, where her main source of socialization was through her butler and her father, who was most likely not around all that much because he was in fact the mayor, was not traumatizing in the slightest and didn't impact the way she treats others. She was entitled and privileged straight out the womb. Thomas, you created a character who you believe to be evil incarnate because she has a support system more than substantial for fostering goodness, but yet Chloe chooses to make the wrong decisions despite these environmental factors. Then you get mad at fans for thinking she's gonna get a redemption arc because as it stands, her character doesn't make any sense. There are several instances in the show where she tries to change for the better, but according to you, we convinced ourselves that we were getting a redemption arc. Giving us hints to understand Chloe's behavior doesn't excuse your behavior nor make her a hero. He further states that we ignored all the signs that there wasn't going to be a redemption arc and straight up called anyone who believed that there would be a redemption arc in denial. You expect people to be devoid of sympathy when seeing the way Chloe has grown up, and then relish the fact that Zoe swoops in and takes away her connections with Adrian and Ladybug, which are connections that have helped Chloe to improve in the past. Yes, there are people who stray down the wrong path, and yes, at a certain point, when you meet people who are so obstinate and stubborn in their ways, it may be best to just distance yourself from them. But are you saying that once certain people get to a certain point that they aren't redeemable? Especially Chloe, who is a young 14-year-old girl who still has so much life left to live, and you're saying that her motivations will never change? But like you do, you always take it it 3,000 steps too far. You can behave like the worst garbage, all you need is a micro good deed, and then all of a sudden, many will forgive everything. Let the oppressor give the oppressed a treat, and we will praise his humanity. A bit like in abusive relationships, when we are dealing with a monster, we often convince ourselves that it will change, not only because we are driven by the desire to help the other, but also because we don't want to lose everything we have emotionally invested into the relationship. If you think Thomas comparing Chloe to an emotionally abusive partner is bad, it gets worse. As with victims of R-word, oh poor man, he misbehaved, don't let that ruin his whole life. What about the ruined life of the victim? To which Thomas replied, exactly. So you are comparing Chloe, and for that matter, anybody who defends Chloe and wants her to get a redemption arc, to someone justifying the R-word. How can you possibly make that comparison? For the most part, Thomas Astruck's behavior on Twitter, besides for that last segment, was more amusing than disturbing. But I can't say the same for this next part. A big problem that the Miraculous Ladybug community has faced since the beginning of the show has been the sexualization of characters who are minors, particularly Marinette/Ladybug and Adrian/Cat Noir. This phenomenon isn't all that surprising to me, unfortunately, because I think that there is a culture of sexualizing minors in the media, but at the same time, I'm also surprised because it is a kid's show. So why should this be an issue? Miraculous does incorporate a questionable and unnecessary amount of suggestive poses between Ladybug and Cat Noir, but I'd say that's more or less the extent of the sexualization within the show. Outside the show, however, I cannot say the same. Right before the show officially premiered, the co-director of Miraculous Ladybug, Winnie Payne, drew sexual art not only of Ladybug, but also of Marinette and Cat Noir, and posted these drawings to his public Twitter, which I will not be showing for obvious reasons, and the pictures have been deleted from his account, by the way. But at the time, someone pointed out that this was highly inappropriate considering the show's intended audience, to which Winnie replied, if you can't look at it, just don't. I do not need to dignify or prove myself. Winnie the Pooh? More like Winnie the Pooher. Just kidding, I do not want to insinuate anything about this guy. My point in mentioning this whole ordeal is that it should not have been done. I honestly can't recall a single time where a director of a children's animated show posted not safe for work fan art of his own characters in the show on his public Twitter. That's wild to me, but we're not done yet. At a Comic-Con convention, bestie Ezra Wise, who is a voice actor and English dubbing director of Miraculous Ladybug, said some questionable things, along with the voice actor for Tiki.
The superhero sure does look sexy.
She's not gonna be as sexy as Marinette.
No, don't worry, Tiki. We'll take good care of Marinette. She will remain the sexy.
So, the culture of sexualizing Cat Noir and Ladybug, along with Marinette and Adrian, both of whom are literal children, is not all that surprising given the influence of the creators, who not only accept it, but partake in it. At the end of the day, I don't think that Thomas or Willie or Ezra or anybody that I mentioned in this video are morally irredeemable like Chloe, or deserve to get any hate comments. Their behavior at worst is disturbingly immature, and at best, just flat out disappointing. Even more so because of the fact that I feel like we never see anybody taking accountability despite people calling them out for these behaviors, and instead they just push all these incidences under the rug and pretend that they don't exist. Which is why it was so refreshing to see Jeremy Zag not only step up and address the wage issue, but also fix it. It's also hard because I do feel a little bit guilty about watching the show and talking about it online, because there definitely are better shows out there and ones where I am more than happy to support the creators. But I don't know, let me know what you think. Again, please do not go and hate on any of these people. If you have pent up energy and you need to release it, feel free to do so in the comments of this video. Feel free to hate on me while you're at it, because I don't care. I'd rather you hate on me than hate on one of these guys, because clearly they won't take it very well, and I kind of want to give them a break. I did in fact just make a whole video roasting them, but you know, they probably won't see this. I also want to give a big shout out to the Tumblr account, The Immaturity of Thomas Astruck, which enlightened me about a lot of the things that Thomas has said on Twitter, and they elaborate on a lot of the situations that I mentioned in this video, and have more situations that I didn't even talk about on their Tumblr, so go check them out, please. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts. Bye.